Hey, welcome to the Bible Forum. It's 8 o'clock on a Sunday night here in sunny Charleston, South Carolina. And you're on the Bible Forum. We're here for the next 2 hours. We're going to spend this time together. We're going to be talking about life through a biblical lens. We're trying to solve all the world's problems in 2 hours or less. I want you to be aware of our Facebook page. We should be streaming live from there. The individual videos will be posted there either late tonight or early tomorrow. I want you to be aware of our websites. We have obviously thebibleforum.net, but we also have theviewfromzoar.com. We look at life as it's coming to a conclusion, as Lot and his daughters did, watching over the cities of the plain as the fire and brimstone came down. There's also livinggodly.net. Talk about living godly. Tribiblicalcounseling.net. And there's also the Bible Institute, Bible Institute of Charleston.org. We want you to be involved as much as you can. We've had a lot of things going on this week, things that, kind of make me sit up and take notice. We had in Florida a 950-ton crosswalk that collapsed on the road below, killing 6 people, injuring more. It seems the traffic light had everybody stopped there, and cars were parked under that crosswalk when it happened. The manufacturer of this crosswalk reportedly bragged how that it was the first of its kind. I don't know about you, but when you have a first of a kind, you go slowly and you check everything off twice. The construction company had the road closed overnight when it was lifted into place, but didn't see the need to do that while they were conducting stress tests. One news outlet said that it was going on as the crosswalk collapsed. The Florida governor's office said Florida International University picked a firm that was not pre-qualified to check the design of the bridge. The university used stimulus money, federal stimulus money, to build the walkway. Something which was required because it was such a long pedestrian bridge. Apparently it would have been and probably will be the longest in the country, if not the world, and some other unique characteristics required under the federal guidelines with Florida and with the federal government. What's all this say about our collective intelligence? I think the answer is that we are an imperfect species, exactly as the Bible describes us, either unable or unwilling to learn or to follow rules. Isn't that the definition of sin? All 7 military personnel aboard a U.S. Air Force Pave Hawk helicopter were killed this past Thursday in a crash in western Iraq near the Syrian border, according to U.S. defense officials. Not from enemy activity. The incident marked the second aircraft crash for the military in 2 days. A Navy F-18 Super Hornet jet crashed off the coast of Key West, Florida on Wednesday, killing both the pilot and the weapons system officer. We're being told military budget is about 30% of what it needs to be. That according to a February 2017 testimony before Congress. Dakota Wood, former Marine, now senior research fellow for defense programs, is the one who is talking about this. Noted that Chairman McCain in his just released white paper combined the effects of early $1.5 trillion cuts over a decade, which includes Secretary of Defense Robert Gates' $200 billion in efficiency cuts during roughly the same 10-year period, now having devastating results in our military. Now, the helicopter went down probably due to pilot error. We're told that it hit power lines. Was not under attack, was not in a military configuration, was just simply transporting people back and forth. Somewhere, somehow, somebody didn't see, didn't know, wasn't told, violated procedures, we don't know. But it's a sad day when we have these sorts of things going on. FoxNews.com is reporting that world leaders agree that Russia is behind the recent nerve gas attack in Great Britain. Since I wrote this article, there has been another attack very similar. The statement read, "This use of a military-grade nerve agent of a type developed by Russia continues the first offensive use, or constitutes the first offensive use of a nerve agent in Europe since the Second World War. It's an assault on UK sovereignty, and any such use by a state party is a clear violation of the Chemical Weapons Convention and a breach of international law. It threatens the security of us all." So said spokespeople for the United Kingdom. They continued saying Russia's failure to respond to a legitimate request for an explanation simply further underlines its responsibility. The conclusion is we call on Russia to live up to its responsibilities as a member of the United Nations Security Council to uphold international peace and security. They further call on all skunks to show restraint in regard to their fear. Did you notice this week on the high school students that were running around out of school after or during school hours? What was that all about? Well, they left school for an expanded period of time. They left school to march and to demonstrate against gun violence. And inquiring minds want to know, what if one or several of these children were raped, injured, killed during the sanctioned release from school? School districts generally have very strict rules governing what a student does and where she goes. Permission slips must be secured from parents to leave the campus for any reason. And I wonder if the parents provided such permission slips. I mean, the entire school pretty much was allowed out. What does that say? What was really going on here? Do we know? And if they didn't provide this kind of permission, what's wrong with the parents? The very thing they were demonstrating against could have happened while they were all together, I don't know, demonstrating. In Nashville, students went on a rampage against automobiles. I do not know what automobiles have done to them, but they went on a rampage, destroying what they could of these automobiles. In Chicago, students vandalized a Walmart, and I don't know what Walmart has to do with the shooting and all the things that are going on. It may just be that that's what kids do, a certain brand of children. When I was in school, nobody was allowed off the property without parental permission. Had to go through the office. They were very conscious of their responsibility to protect those children in their care. Reports are suggesting that now former Secretary of State Tillerson, along with U.S. Secretary of Defense James Mattis, had urged the president to remain in the nuclear deal, the United Nations nuclear deal with Iran, as it believed that pulling out would harm America's global standing as well as its leverage to persuade allies to put more pressure on Iran. President Trump, on the other hand, announced in January that he would no longer renew a sanctions waiver on Iran, effectively ending U.S. participation in it. And he gave U.S. and European negotiators a 120-day deadline to implement changes in order to beef up the deal. It doesn't look like that's happening. In all of this, it was clearly the beginning of the end for Secretary Tillerson. Rumors spread that Tillerson was going to be fired. That was last year. It didn't happen. But now it has. Tillerson's leadership style is distinctly different than Trump's. Tillerson ran the 5th largest company in the world. And you don't do that and make money being a maverick. At that level, it's pretty much all about diplomacy, patience, consensus building, and none of those things are Donald Trump. Replacing Tillerson at State Department is former Kansas House of Representatives member, CIA Director Mike Pompeo, who has long been known for his hawkish views on Iran and his warm ties to Israel. Pompeo comes across as a smart, quick, knowledgeable, and focused individual. During his 15-month tenure at CIA, Pompeo reportedly has had good working relations with his intelligence counterparts in Israel, according to news outlet Haaretz, that's Jewish. At the same time, Pompeo also worked to maintain ties between the Trump administration and the Palestinian Authority's security and intelligence forces. The question now is, will the Senate approve him? We all know the vote is going to be very, very close. Already, Kentucky Republican Senator Rand Paul has said no. However, in the last day or two, it looks or sounds like maybe he's changing a little bit. We'll see. If you take a look at society today, here in the beginning of the 21st century, it is basically middle school in large print. We're talking cliques, ostracism, mean girl put-downs, and posturing on social media and on television. We have a society divided into groups, into factions, into political identities, and they're all being defined by hashtags. We have people trying to get anyone who disagrees with them fired, and dismissing anything they don't like as fake news. We have Hillary Clinton declaring people who didn't vote for her come from backward parts of the country. Or Trump followers railing against elites. We have cyberbullying and Twitter outrage mobs. If we're upset with something, we take to the streets and we try to destroy anyone's property, not our own, or steal anything not tied down. We have change agents spreading lies and half-truths to stimulate people with no opinion other than what they've been told, what they've been told to be or told to do, whatever would be different or self-gratifying. And in the midst of all this, we're still having people tell us that human beings are basically good. Any questions? This was the news this week, March 16, 2018. The launch, 4 states, I believe it is, are going to be issuing digital driver's licenses as a test. But you already knew that. How did you know it? Well, because I told you. I told you in August 2016, the U.S. Commerce Department's National Institute of Standards and Technology awarded a grant to further support the development of trusted identities based on digital driver's licenses provided by states. Through a $2 million grant awarded to Gemalto, 4 jurisdictions, Idaho, Colorado, Maryland, and Washington, D.C., are implementing a pilot program for a secure digital driver's license, a DDL, which many believe to be the future of trusted identities. In 2017, Wyoming decided to join the program. This week, for some reason, the mainstream media decided to tell us what was going on. Oh yeah, it is now 1984. And if that's not enough, now we have the ability to manipulate what you see or what you hear on TV, on your computer, on your video screen on your phone or your Twitter account, wherever you can get audio and video together. You now have the ability, or we do, not me, these people, to let you believe the person you're watching is actually saying what you hear. And they can do that in real time. They call it face-to-face with the letter 2. Face-to-face. Real-time capture and reenactment software. This is where someone can set up a camera in front of another person's face, then set up a camera in front of their own face, and that person can then say and do whatever they choose, and the original person, maybe a government leader, could be on the TV talking, but the mouth is moving and the words coming out in his or her voice will be mine. Say, do whatever you want. It'll show up as though the other person is the one doing it. The other one is saying it. And you can have it recorded and broadcast. And you'll think that the president was actually saying that. Or some influential representatives of society, or even someone who's dead. And neither you nor anybody else, without the technology to detect the difference, can detect the difference. They can do it with a statue. It is truly a brave new world. That's the title of Aldous Huxley's dystopian prediction of the future, where a technologically advanced future is genetically bred, socially indoctrinated, and pharmaceutically anesthetized to passively uphold an authoritarian ruling order, and all of that at the cost of our freedom, at the cost of our full humanity, and perhaps our very souls. Do you really know what all that medication is doing to you? Dartmouth College computer science chair Hani Farid has a lab working to perfect technology that would identify fakes. Have we come to this? According to the Post, President Trump has been caught telling a deliberate lie in order to put down a head of state. Now, those are my words, but that's essentially what's going on. Or did he? Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau came to Washington this week in order to speak to the president in part on trade. And one of the things he told President Trump was that Canada has no trade deficit with the United States. President Trump assured him he was wrong. But it turns out that Trudeau was right. So Trump's an idiot who doesn't know what's going on. That's the storyline. But here's, as they say, the rest of the story. The reporter was faithful to flesh out the whole exchange. You see, it seems Trump asked his people to check because, according to Trump, he couldn't believe it. Trump's man came back to say Trudeau was right. Partially. He said, we have no deficit with Canada. But that doesn't include energy and timber, where apparently we do have a deficit. We are losing $17 billion with a B dollars a year to Canada, but only in those sectors. So we do have a trade deficit with Canada. And we also don't have a trade deficit with Canada. The Post conclusion, the U.S. Trade Representative's Office says we in fact do have a trade surplus with Canada. And apparently our president doesn't know what he's doing. Those are my words. We had a little subterfuge this week from the Vatican. Seems a team of theologians wrote a series of books about current Pope Francis's theology. Now, many questions have arisen. Many people have criticized or wondered about his theology. Well, now we have a letter from former Pope Benedict XVI in praise of this work and of the current Pope's commitment to historic Roman Catholicism. Or do we? The Christian News Service, reporting on this event, says on the eve of the 5th anniversary of Pope Francis's election, retired Pope Benedict XVI defended the continuity of the Church's teachings under his successor and dismissed those who criticized the Pope's theological foundations. In a letter sent to Monsignor Dario Vignano, prefect of the Vatican Secretariat for Communication, Pope Benedict applauded the publication of a new book series titled The Theology of Pope Francis. Quote, it contradicts the foolish prejudice of those who see Pope Francis as someone who lacks a particular theological and philosophical formation. While I would have been considered solely a theorist of theology with little understanding of the concrete lives of today's Christian, end of quote. A photo accompanied the report. However, the last two lines of the letter in the photo are blurred out. And of course, inquiring minds want to know. You see, it seems in those last few words, former Pope Benedict indicated he did not read the books and therefore could not give an assessment of the Pope's theology due to commitments to other projects. So much for clarity, honesty, character. Which nation is the happiest nation on the earth? We do this every year. It seems that this year Finland is number one. In fact, the first 6 are Scandinavian. And number 7, Canada. Now, I ask the only logical question in this whole process. How can the coldest countries in the world have the happiest people? Answer? When you're that cold all the time, pretty much anything you can get is good. Oh, and they're socialistic, meaning people have a lot of things paid for them, as well as the highest tax rate in the world. But apparently they don't mind that. Apparently they like being kept. There are benefits to it, they say. In the U.S., number 18. We have never been in the top 10. Israel's number 11. Happiest people in the world.